Welcome to The Mind Shift. It's a podcast where we discuss living life without limits. I'm Sridhar. I'm a mindset and strategy specialist, and my very special guest today is Brian Burgess. So, Brian, firstly, welcome.
Thank you
For being here.
Nice to be here.
I've been really looking forward to this. I think watchers or listeners of this podcast know that what we're discussing here is about getting really connected to yourself, self-awareness, and really getting real, just being real. And I'm looking forward to this for a few reasons. One is we've known each other a really long time. I'm trying to think, is it 10 years?
Very long time, at least.
Yeah, it's 10 years we've been knowing each other and working together. And, from the very start, you just brought your real self. A lot of times in life we hide behind things, we put on performances, and from the moment you arrived, you just saw the real Brian. So I'm just really looking forward to
That's
this.
the one with blubbery tears you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, at times we hold on to things and then we'll let it go, and
Absolutely.
but the willingness to go there, because you know what it's like if you don't, right? It's you just hold on to that stuff and what happens.
Yeah.
So I'll just throw you in the deep end, which is what we tend to do on this podcast, and just the watchers of this or listeners of this, they're looking for, how can I make a transition in my life? How can I make a transformation in my life, or get a result? And so, in all these years that you've worked, been with the Mind Shift, what would you say to someone that's saying, well, what can I do to have a transformation in my life, or to grow in my life, or to have something change? What would you say of all the things that you've done?
I guess there's a million ways I can answer that, Sridhar, because I've done it many times. I've seen many people to see you, and universally they all get fantastic results. For me, it really comes down to the power of just questioning beliefs. That is still to this day the most powerful tool I've taken away from the Mind Shift work. That is that we're all carrying really interesting sort of beliefs from our past and our way of being. And what I've learned by working with you is that those beliefs are nearly always wrong, in the sense that they are usually delivering an outcome that is completely opposite to what they purport to do. So challenging the belief is the things that almost universally frees me up.
Okay, well, some people have come, and I probably know a lot of people watching this, but some people have come to me and said, well, what do you mean by beliefs? Like, how would you know that you have beliefs? How limiting ones?
Well, as soon as a thought manifests for me a belief, I'll give you an example, because we worked on this quite recently. Public speaking's been a really big thing for me. And even with working for you, I've managed to strategically avoid that for a long time. And even being here is not my comfort zone. But in the last few months, I've decided that's something I really need to take on. As recently as a couple of weeks ago, I had to go to Auckland to give a talk, and I had all sorts of beliefs about how that was going to be. And thankfully had a session with you the day before, and just questioned what it was that I was believing, because I had the thought that I wouldn't be good enough. I had the thought that I'd muck it up. I had the thought that, but the belief from behind that was around the power of the people in the room, what they were going to judge me as, and it just questioning that belief. It just wasn't the case, and it went really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a great example, by the way. Public speaking, it's a well-known fear that people have, is getting up in front of people and speaking. And the thing that we know, because I do public speaking like you, and it's that feeling. When I had to do this work on myself, it's that just all of a sudden that fear is there. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to talk to people. Like, I talk to people every day.
Yep.
This happens to be an arena. Well, why is this all of a sudden my heart beating fast and I'm getting dry mouth and all this kind of stuff? And so it's that feeling, right? That's the indication that you're believing something.
Yep.
And then, yeah. So do you want to say a bit more about like what did you do? So you looked at. You had these fears about people were going to judge you.
Yep.
And then tell us a bit more about how did you go from that a day before to went there and delivered a powerful
just literally
presentation?
questioned it. So, is this true? And then started doing the work that you've taught so much over the years. Asking the questions, is this true? Is it absolutely true? Can I know it's true? And then peeling it back layer by layer, then starting to build the evidence for the fact that the opposite is in fact the truth. Yeah. That the people in that room were there to support, and they were encouraging, and they were, literally. So everything I held to be the truth was, as I said earlier, universally the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a powerful thing to say. Like if you look at how debilitating that can be. So if you went in there with that scenario, you're speaking to people that are really mean and rude, and they're just sitting there waiting to judge you.
Horrible.
Right? These are people that have come to listen to you speak.
Yep.
And, you're then becoming an identity that isn't you. So you're not going to be fully there like you ended up being, delivering this thing. And that's all happening because you're believing.
And alongside that, I'm not good enough. I don't know the content. I'm not worthy of being there. All these sort of things are subliminally in the back. And when challenged, they just get pulled apart. Why am I there? Well, I'm there because I've been asked to be there. That somebody's felt that I knew enough to go and do that.
Yeah.
And that's not what my belief is hold on to in that moment. So I have to probe it, challenge it, and really look for the evidence that the opposite is true.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving us a really good opportunity to see something which is the irrational nature of those limiting thoughts, right? There's no reason, how long have you done what you're doing here that you were speaking on the topic?
Years.
Decades, right? So you know it like the back of your hand, yet irrationally the mind and body just goes through this process anyway.
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating that you're giving us an insight into that. So once you see that, and there's a process, we won't discuss the whole thing on the podcast, but you inquire into it, and then you realize, okay, it's true, and how are you going to be if you don't believe that? How do you show up? And so what was the difference? So when you got out there, what did it feel like?
It's just incredibly empowering. I reflect on when I do the work and challenge those beliefs, you tap into the real you, the actual authentic you. So the beliefs that sort of sometimes run our lives, they're not the real us. That the real us sits at a much more authentic level. And so I literally got out there and enjoyed it, rather than being terrified, rather than being, agitated and upset. I actually enjoyed the process and connected with the people in the room and made eye contact. And I've done this in many, many other forums and places through the work we've done together, but it really is empowering, and it just really helps you connect with the authentic you.
Yeah, so I mean, that's again, very powerful thing to say.
Yeah.
If I'm out there and I've never seen this work before, I'm like, what does that mean? Authentic me and not authentic me, but you're really describing it. So in the course of time that you've been, inquiring and into the work and doing all the aspects of the work, like what would you say overall? What's a shift like? What was it like before in terms of when you're saying the not authentic you? Because that's what happens, right? We believe a thought. That guy that was going to go out there believing he wasn't good enough to deliver it isn't you.
Correct.
Right, it's got nothing to do with you. You're the guy with decades of experience, very smart guy, know how to go out and do it, done it before, yet the mind is telling you what it's telling you. So over time, like if you gave us a nutshell of like, what was it like before when you were, I call it identified with a story, or any of these beliefs are a story because they're not true.
Sure.
So what was it like before? And if you said that, because you've said this authentic self, overall, what would you say? Because it's a journey, but what would you say it was like before, and what's it like now in terms of what are you gaining in terms of that authentic self?
I think one of the things I need to reflect on for myself, and I suspect some of your listeners will as well, is that you do the work and things just gradually change in your life and you don't notice it. In fact, I've come to you over the years and gone, well, nothing's really changed, am I, and we have this tendency, I think all of us, to minimise. And on the drive in this morning, I was thinking about where I was 10 years ago, and I remember, because I found an old goal sheet from those days, and some of the things that I wanted to do in business, some of the things I wanted to do in the community, and you'll know that I'm part of MDRT. I found on this goal sheet that I just wanted to somehow get into leadership and lend a hand, so to speak. And today I'm on Global Council, which is sort of the opportunity to serve at a very high level within MDRT globally. And I reflect on how did I go from that to that. When we met, I was just a sort of one-man band insurance advisor. Now I'm part of a little boutique team that's a very good little business.
Yeah.
And how did I go from that to that? And it's just been the gradual challenging of beliefs to doing the work. And I'd say I'm really a different person in many ways. And you could say that, anybody could say that over a 10-year journey, but I'm definitely a different person. Still challenging with, playing with beliefs constantly. I can't say I've cracked it.
Yeah.
And I know from you that I will always be needing to do something in this realm because our belief structures are very strong and they hold on. But I love your analogy of the elastic band. It just gets weaker over time the more you stretch it and challenge it. So, I look back over 10 years and my life has changed a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's so many things in there. I kept going, that's great, that's great. It's these gold, these gold nuggets that you have. But yeah, it is like that. Like you're in it, and the mind just sees the way it sees things, and it's conditioned to think what's not happening. What we haven't done, and so even though you're achieving extraordinary things, it kind of says, oh, you just nothing's happening. But I love what you did, because if you look back, you actually see what's happening, and it's a big thing. So MDRT, for people that don't know, it's the $1 Million Roundtable, which is you have to be a elite high performer in your industry to even be in it, and to then get on to the highest levels of that. It's extraordinary, especially when you're dealing with the things that you were. And yeah, when you look back, you can see that's the kind of thing that we want to see. And if my thing is, if we get stuck, like sometimes we just get stuck in a same old thing and we don't get out, right? That's what this is all about. Is what a horrible way to live life. I was there, and it was just a trap, and I knew I was in it, and I desperately wanted out. I could sense that there was a better life there. And you said something about continuing to do the work, and some people say to me, I'm still, because I'm still doing the work, right? And I mean, decades, Brian, right? And people say, oh, something must be wrong with me. I haven't got it because I'm still having thoughts. And I said, well, how many times did you have that thought before you arrived? They're just like, oh, I still have to do the work. And I'm like, well, what were you doing before? Oh, I was just having the same thought over and over again and staying stuck. So what would you prefer, staying stuck or doing the work, right? And the story's there for a reason, isn't it? There's like a false it's trying to protect us, but it isn't really.
Yeah, like it's something I've been thinking as we've been talking, and I've never said this to you before, but I've come to a place of actually appreciating the thoughts, in a kind of funny way, that I know what they're there for. They're trying to do me good. They are inherently part of my psyche, and their intention is good. But now that I know their role within my life, I can thank them, literally. Thank you for the thought, but now I'm going to challenge that.
Yeah, thank you, and for giving me the opportunity also to shift it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that I heard it was by a very, very wise woman, is the thoughts, the stories and thoughts aren't bad. They're not wrong. They're just confused.
Yep.
And as you said earlier, they don't lead to anything good. They lead to I think you said it really perfectly, they lead to the opposite outcomes of what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah. They've got great intentions, but they're not very good at their job. They literally deliver you to the very opposite.
It's just phenomenal when you think about what they're trying to do, and
that's a little bit enlightening, and there's almost a relief to say that, because as you come to understand the process, it's kind of fun to work with.
It's wonderful to work with, isn't it? Because you're sitting there in this fear, or you're sitting there like I keep flashing back to a particular moment with you. You'll know the moment we were in a small group together, and I think about what you were dealing with, and yeah, shall we just go there? And I remember you sitting there. You're pretty early on, and I asked for a volunteer. Who wanted to see what your story is? But no, well, was it a fool or? Yeah, actually, I'm going to say something serious about that, because when I think about, nobody knows my story about where I came from and the homelessness and drug addiction, et cetera. And if it's a real serious business for me, because I think my life could have kept going that way. And when I think about like what got me there, what's got me here, it's jumping in, it's taking the opportunity when you're given it. So I don't want to make that a joke, because you did that. It takes bucket loads of courage to go, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to do it. And, it sounded good to you, I think, to identify your story and to get past it. And, it's one thing to do it. It's another thing to do it in a public group, which you did. And that just shows the courage. But I would suggest, I want to take this opportunity to say to people, when you get an opportunity, to take it, because, it's important.
And just to acknowledge the shift for me in that moment, but the other people as well. So sometimes the value of doing it is not just for yourself, but for others.
Well, because you really went there. Like, I remember that day. It was how many years ago? Gosh, it was 9 years ago, I think.
Oh, wow.
And I still remember that day. Like, I can remember it as if we're sitting here on that day. I remember where you were and where I was. And, what you said, I'm going to find my story. So are you willing to share a little bit about what it was and what was life like when you had that story? And
look,
it'll really help us.
I think, now that I'm reflecting some years later, I'll speak a little bit more lighter perhaps than I was then, but it was really just a story around my childhood and what I believed was going on, and I believed I had a very angry father who was hostile and grumpy at us all the time, and there were aspects of grumpiness and anger, but a particular incident that we spoke of, and you asked me,
Yeah.
to really get present, and something had happened, and I'd been a rat bag, frankly, and to look into my father's eyes in that moment and see his fear, and the lack of abundance that was our life back then. I've damaged something, the cost of it, him not being able to fix it. I just saw all that in that moment. Big moment to sort of make that shift.
This is a very, very amazing opportunity here. So when you saw that moment, which is obvious because it's still there for you, 8 years later, it's there as if it's right now. Who was that man to you, your father? Who was he to you before you saw that? And what did he become to you in that moment?
He was grumpy and hostile and, mean from a little kid's point of view, but in that moment he became vulnerable and authentic and real, and even loving.
And you feel connection, don't you,
Absolutely.
in that moment? So this is quite close to my heart because both my parents have died. They're on, they're not here, and the way that I saw them and the way that I behaved towards them because the way I saw them, they didn't love me, they didn't want me. And then I went through a process like you and woke up to how untrue that whole thing was and who they actually were for me, like how, they never gave up on me. They just were there for me all the time. And I'm so fortunate that I got that chance to do that with them, and because they were alive for a period of time after I got that. And I just, I see people out there in families disconnected and angry, and they don't talk to each other. One day those people die, and you don't get another chance to connect. And then if you wake up to it, you realize the whole time I was doing that. Yes, things happen, and I get that.
Sure.
But in just about every case, I can't think of an exception, you see that person as something, as who they really were.
Absolutely.
As, afraid person that was just trying to get through life like the rest of us, and they weren't intentionally doing things; they were just kind of lost themselves. And we get connection, and I can say for certain, in all the years I've done this work, that's what we actually want. We want connection,
Absolutely.
with the people that we love. So this is amazing. Thank you for your courage in sharing it. Firstly,
No problem.
yeah. So, all right. Well, what else would you? What's something else that you might say to people when they want their mind shift journey? They want their life without limits.
Yeah, for me, it's really hard to go beyond the belief work that we've done. It's sort of mainly what you and I do. You know me well. Where else have you seen me shift? Prompt me.
Well, look, I mean, it's interesting because when people come, there are actually different parts of the work, right? There's the clarity part of it, and the how to bring about the things in life that you want to bring about. So we might call it manifesting or creating. But I think there are people that come, and I'd say you're one of them when I really stop and think about it. This part of it is profound, the beliefs part, and that's the part that they want to stay with and stay with. So maybe then the question is, what other changes have you seen? So what aspects are there from it?
So you've tapped into that creative side of things, and that is something that I've really done a lot of work on, is manifesting, a different reality. I referenced that little goal sheet that I found written 10 years ago with a whole bunch of things on it. And I remember wanting to do some international travel, and I thought, ridiculously, maybe I can travel internationally once or twice a year. And I look back over the last 7 or 8 years, and I probably travel 3 or 4 times a year internationally. I have no idea how that happened, really. It's just I've just created it, and to the point that I'm almost getting sick of traveling. So yeah, that creative space is really something that's just kind of evolved with the work we've done. Number of things on that list that have manifestly changed. Yeah, and I don't even know how.
Yeah, it's reminding me of another person that was on a previous podcast, and most of her podcast was around that clarity, like writing those things down. And when she said, when I wrote these things down, she did a 5-year plan. And she said, when I wrote these things down, I had no idea. Like I was just writing stuff down that I wanted to have. And she said, I put it away in a drawer. And, she said, I remember the clarity of it, I put it away in a drawer, and she said, I took it out. I think it was 2 years later or 3 years later, and all of them had been ticked off. And she didn't even, there's a power to clarity. I knew you were going to bring out some really important
I
things.
love that because, you don't need to know. When you start to manifest a desire and you want to bring about an outcome, you don't need to know the nuts and bolts.
So tell us more. Think of an example in your life, and because this is a big part of the work.
The travel one is probably the biggest one. The serving MDRT, these are the two things that I really jumped off the page at me when I looked at that silly little goal sheet I wrote down 10 years ago. But these things, I reflect on that role I've currently got with MDRT. I literally didn't even know it existed. Went then, I had no idea how the hierarchy of leadership worked within the organisation. I was just wanting to lend a hand, and I've been given the opportunity to serve effectively. So, travel, I knew a little bit about what I wanted, but I knew I just didn't have the money to do it. Not the way that I wanted to do it. So, I just laid it down with the marker. I was working with a guy yesterday who's doing a speak, and he was talking about the percentage of, if you write something down, it's 40% more likely to happen. If you review it regularly, it's 70% more likely to happen. So the technology's out there, and people are doing it.
Yeah,
it's a remarkable.
Well, I'm gonna add something to this because it's our part of our mind shift is that if it's genuine, like if it's something that the true you really wants, and you those things will enhance it, then your chances go up to 95+%. I want to say 100. I'm just thinking, well, is there one chance where something have happened, but really it's going to happen? If it's a genuine thing, you get really, really clear about it because it's a power that actually happens. So I remember my first mentor gave me a quote. So he helped me to get off the streets, and he was just instrumental in my turnaround life, my turnaround. His name was Robert, and when he was dying, I graduated. I went back to university and did a bunch of things and got a degree. And he came. He was very, very sick, but he came to my graduation, and he gave me this framed copy of a quote, and it was by Goethe. You know the quote. You probably have it maybe on your wall as well. And he gave it to me, and I could see that this was, he's saying this has to be your guide now because I'm not going to be here. He was terminal at that point, and it's basically the gist of it is the moment one commits oneself, the entire world moves, and all manner of unforeseen circumstances and material assistance and chance meetings rise in the favor of the one that's committed. And I think this is what you're telling us now. That clarity is that thing. Because I'm thinking about it, Brian. I think because we're in touch, right? We do our work together. When we contact you, I'm wondering, is Brian here or is he somewhere? You really have to wonder, is he overseas now or is he here? Because I just realized how much your dream is actually coming true.
Yeah, yep. So we have done meetings from Bangkok and various parts of the world.
Yeah.
It is kind of a dream come true.
And we're about to do one together. We're about to go and public speak together in Sydney.
Going to Sydney.
Yeah.
And I'm going to conquer public speaking.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and,
yeah, it's it's just amazing what life can open up, and you're just very powerfully demonstrating that for us. So I appreciate your honesty because it just really cuts to the chase. You had a story, I think we can all see in you someone who was willing to have the courage to feel it and to go there, to do the work, to question the way that you saw something, and we're just very clearly hearing what's turned out.
Yeah.
So we'll, almost short and sweet because you're being so clear about what there is, but is there anything else? So if I'm sitting out there and I go, yeah, I've been watching this podcast, or maybe this is the first episode, but I want my greatest life. I want my life without limits. What would you say to someone who's listening or watching this?
I alluded to it, excuse me, at the very beginning, Sridhar, that I've sent many people your way. I'm a natural born salesman, and I will, I can polish things up and make things sound really, really good, but I just encourage people to come to you because every single person I've sent to you has had outstanding results, and that speaks volumes. And there's been a few. There's a lot of people I've sent your way. So when I come across someone who's struggling with something or is aspiring for something, I just naturally want them to connect in with you. If they're struggling with something, it's because they've got some sort of belief thing that is almost universally going to be wrong, and that when they look at it and understand what's really going on, they'll be fully empowered. And if they want to go places, then they want to come to you for that as well. So I do sound like a bit of a one-trick pony, but I just send pretty much anybody I can your way. They can embrace the work, and look, if anybody's listening to this podcast and is looking for a shift, 100% they need to connect. And when I look at your life, we meet at Synergy Networking,
Yeah.
very long time ago, as you were just
Yeah.
starting this enterprise, and look at you now.
Yeah, it's
Amazing.
it works.
That does.
It works. And well, thank you very much for coming here and sharing that with us. I don't know, for someone that's ever had fear of public speaking, it's one of the most clear, direct messages we've had on the podcast. So it just goes to show, who you are and what you've done, your dedication. So I want to thank you on behalf of all of us for coming here and for just,
Pleasure, mate.
again, like you always do, just being your genuine self and sharing of yourself. It really, we're wanting to do something different and special here, and you just helped us to do that tremendously. So yeah, thank you for coming
Thank you, brother.
and being here.
Yeah, cheers, mate.